Obviously, a lot of y'all know from yesterday that it's been officially announced that Canelo Alvarez will culminate his PBC contract this September in a blockbuster fight against Edgar Berlanga. What news broke following that, after I made the video, was that, and this is usual IBF and not surprising, they have officially stripped Canelo Alvarez of the title. And part of me for not remembering who they're putting up, like, the vacant IBF title with, like the two fighters. But going into the Berlanga fight this September, he will no longer be undisputed super middleweight champion. And, like, to be honest with you, I think a big part of Canelo probably doesn't care. He's already become undisputed. He's defended the undisputed title. Now, mind you, against a lot of competition that weren't at super middleweight. That's an interest. You know what? That's an interesting an interesting statistic as it concerns. Well, Jaime Munguia, I guess, was a super middleweight at that point. But when you look at the totality of, since he became undisputed, he fought Bivol, which I wasn't mad at. I thought that was a difficult fight to get into. He fights Triple G, who wasn't really super middleweight. He fights John Ryder, who, again, wasn't like a high-level super middleweight. Fights Jermell Charlo, another guy who isn't a super middleweight. So, and then he fights Jaime Munguia, a low-tier super middleweight in relation to, like, everybody that was there. Nevertheless, he's going into this fight with Berlanga this September as still unified champion. As far as I know, I don't think the WBC are gonna strip him. But I mean, really, at this stage, does Canelo care? He became undisputed, and I think from this point, I just think it's really one stretching, maybe two big blockbuster fights that are maybe ahead of him. And I think that's it. I think the notion of Canelo Alvarez being this number one, this long-standing undisputed champion, and or like having even 4 years left in his career, I just think is unrealistic, man. I mean, I don't foresee Canelo fighting after 2 solid years, So with that being said, what's the real next course of action after Edgar Berlanga? And I hate to talk about him in the sense of like he's a foregone conclusion, but like, look, again, Canelo should be and will be a monster favorite in that fight for obvious reasons. If anybody is familiar with Edgar Berlanga, yeah, there's the whole Puerto Rico, Mexico, but you know what? Like, and this is not to be disrespectful, but the Puerto Rico-Mexico rivalry has its merit when the two combatants are of that, like, now Canelo, yeah. But like when we talk about Canelo Cotto, okay. When you talk about like Cotto Margarito, okay. When you look at the stature of the fights, this doesn't really meet those criteria. Again, no disrespect, but I keep trying to hit this point home. And as far as and as far as the IBF is concerned, they've been on a tirade of stripping fighters and things as such, man. So this is why, out of all the organizations, this one, it never surprises me because it's their MO a lot of times, man. And look, to be fair, like, it should be like that, right? Like, if you're not fighting your mandatory, or if you're not fighting the next best guy, then we're gonna strip you. If boxing were just like that in general, right? But any case, so him being stripped of the IBF title, does Canelo at a point start to liquidate some of the other belts? If it means, like, what is it gonna matter if I'm not undisputed? Why am I gonna hold on? No, again, no disrespect to like the WBO belt. Why don't I just hold the WBC and WBA belt? I'm still known as the champion. Why not have like 2 belts instead of 3 if I'm gonna still be recognized as a unified champion? Again, I'm just throwing stuff against the wall. But After September, the question becomes like, what's May gonna look like for him, right? And I think a lot of us at this point, and some of us that have been throwing that pebble in the pond, and myself and Coltrane have been saying this for the better part of like 6 months. Canelo Alvarez is at a stage in his career, man, where I feel he's more at the end of the tunnel than even in the middle. Terrence Crawford is more at the end of the tunnel than in the middle. And when you have two guys like that are in that same part of their careers, they're looking for a big fight. It's why I'm preparing y'all, man. I really am. I really am, because the mirage is there. So it's like, not to say like they can do other things, but this is at the end of the very end of the day, man, it's prize fighting. And fighters at this stature, they look for the biggest cash out they possibly can, again, at this stage of their careers. And that's why when people were suggesting for Canelo and Benavidez to fight, I kept telling people, that's not going to happen, man. That's not going to happen. And look, yeah, is there credence to Canelo, like, ducking Benavidez? You could say that, you know? But at the same time, if he goes and fights Terrence Crawford, while some people will say, oh, he's moving up 2 weight classes, like, to suggest there's no risk for Canelo in that fight is crazy. Is crazy. And he's even telling y'all, man, like, he's even telling y'all. But money ultimately talks. And this is why this guy, Turki Al-Sheikh, is becoming a major figure in the sport, because the biggest complaint and one of the biggest issues Canelo had in this last fight was the fact that the PBC couldn't come up with the funds at the 11th hour for this fight to be made. And he ends up fighting a guy that's not even in the PBC stable, man. So that all being said, when you remove the money issues, fights somehow get made, don't they? So I think the stars are beginning to align. And when you look at the fact that, you know, Crawford's got a fight next week, Canelo has a fight in September, the door's wide open, man. And, you know, I think all of us see what's going to happen. So as of right now, Canelo Alvarez is officially being stripped of the IBF title. So he's no longer undisputed champion, you know? And I'm going to say one more time, I doubt he's complaining. I doubt he's complaining. So, but that all being said, man, like I mentioned yesterday, I mean, I get the consensus that not many people are happy with Canelo fighting Edgar Berlanga. And look, just so everybody's on the up and up, man, I'm not throwing shade at Edgar Berlanga at all. Why? Who wouldn't take this fight? Like, are you serious? Like, if at anything, man, like, congratulations to him and his team for landing this fight, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because he goes in there, and what I feel is inevitable, he's going to get a big payday, and however his career pans out from there is what it is. But I don't think anybody should be mad at Edgar Berlanga. He's the one getting the opportunity. You know, Canelo's the one that decided to fight him. So you can't really be mad at Berlanga. I think the criticism more lies with Canelo Alvarez. But if you're from the mindset of Canelo just is playing, I mean, let's just say what it is, bro. Like, he's hustling the PBC. Why do I say that? Because the PBC are paying, they're basically putting this fight on their platform. They're the lead promoter. And by the way, this fight is combating a UFC on the same night that's happening in the Sphere in Las Vegas, okay? And this fight is also happening in Las Vegas. So, okay? Okay? Just so you guys understand what's at stake here. So that's pretty much it. Next weekend we got the big Riyadh season card with Terrence Crawford and Israel Madrimov, Pitbull and Ryo, a fight that nobody's talking about, and a fight that I'll be honest with y'all, man. Like, do not sleep on Ryo in that fight, man. Just don't. Like, everybody's thinking Pitbull's gonna go in there and wipe the floor with them. That could happen, but I think it's gonna be more interesting than people think. And then Andy Cruz is featured on there. David Morrell's featured on there. Andy Ruiz is fighting Big Baby Miller. Again, the one that we missed out on was Tim Tszyu and Virgil Ortiz. That would have been great to see, but, you know, Can't have it all, right? But that'll be next weekend. I'll talk more about that. But that's it, man. Enjoy you guys' weekend, and I'm out.